สวัสดีครับคุณสาระครับ
Are you here, Ajahn?
Yes สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadika,
ส
Ajahn.
วัสดี
สวัส
ค่ะ
ดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
Morning, Gabby. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I think we can start. Would you like to start, Nina? I think you're ready to go.
Okay. I heard Ajahn stressing so much that when an object, when something appears, there must be the experience. A cheetah will experience the object. So this is very helpful because then there can be a beginning of knowing the difference between what experience and what does not experience. Because usually we take them together and there is I and I am experiencing. So I'm really so happy to listen to this again and again because we are so forgetful. We forget all the time that there is an object and then there must be something, a reality that experience.
The object.
And it's now, it's not something in the book. It's the moment of seeing now, moment of hearing now, thinking now, one moment of experiencing after another, following in rapid succession. But it's taken for something or someone all the time. And that's why it's said to be like the magician's trick, the illusion, the magical illusion, because it passes away so quickly and always is taken for something there, but just one moment of experiencing after another at each moment in life. No one there, no one doing anything.
Very
It's
good.
always good to remember that it's now. Yes.
Otherwise we cling to the story.
Yes.
And we get quite engrossed and absorbed in what is happening to us or all the troubles we have in our house or in situations or with other people. So I'm very happy to be reminded all the time.
Yes, always taken for my experiences, my appointments, my problems, as you say, but actually just different moments of experiencing after seeing and hearing, countless moments of thinking about this or that on account of what has been seen and heard. So it is the fantasy, the mirage, the illusion that we live in all the time, taking what is unreal for real because of the perversion, the vipalasa of citta and sanya. Not understanding the truth about this moment, that it's just what is visible that is seen, and just seeing which sees, nothing else. It's a few moments when there's no madness, when there are moments of understanding, but the rest of the time is like living in a state of madness, a state of illusion. Go ahead, Jyotika.
Is there something to say about the experience? Or is it always going around it?
So at the moment of seeing now, it is just the moment of experiencing, seeing what is seen and then gone instantly. And the thinking that follows, thinking about what's seen, thinking about the seeing, thinking about I all the time. It's like going around in the illusion, lost in the fantasy world or the world of the concepts and the stories because of not understanding the truth that it's just a moment of seeing, just a moment of hearing, just a moment of thinking, each one gone instantly. So the thinking is real, but the fantasy, the illusion, is not.
There is a knowing from the experience. Is it?
The experiencing itself, the seeing just sees, it doesn't know anything. It just sees what is visible. And the hearing just hears the sound, and the thinking just thinks. So it's only when there are moments of understanding that there is any understanding or knowing about what is true, what is real. Otherwise, there's no understanding, no knowing at all, just moments of experiencing and thinking with ignorance and attachment most of the time. As soon as there's the idea of me and my experience and my problems, even without any words, but even an impression of I experiencing, then already there is the perversion of thinking with ignorance, thinking with wrong understanding, taking what is just a moment of experiencing for something, for someone. It's so very common, even now. I that is listening, I that is seeing, I that is hearing, but actually no I at all.
I cannot make a question.
And like Nina said, there's lots of thinking about all the problems and my issues and my difficulties. But actually the problem is the thinking with the idea of I, thinking that it's my experience. The problem is the not understanding the truth.
Yeah.
Taking what is just a moment of seeing for I and my problem.
And it always works out differently because it's unexpected what happens the next moment. So we have an idea, this person will be disagreeable because last time he was not so nice. This was on internet, you know. Then it turned out quite differently. He was very kind and nice, and we never knew beforehand what conditions are working. It's a surprise.
And we always have the idea of I can make something happen. I should behave this way, or I should do that, or I should arrange this. But actually, there are just different dhammas, different realities, each one conditioned, not in anyone's control, because there's no one to control even this moment of seeing, or this moment of hearing, or this moment of thinking. So just different realities arising by conditions and gone. But the idea that I can do something, or I can change it, or I control, hinders the development of understanding and causes so many problems.
Sarah, you said that perversion of sanya memory, but isn't sanya just a cetasika which performs its function, and that the perversion comes from another reality, wrong view? So can we say that actually the citta which experiences, the consciousness which experiences, is pure, but sanya is pure in the sense that it must be, just performs its function, doesn't it? It's the wrong view which is actually perverted.
But there can be sanya, there can be the perverted sanya with or without wrong view. At any moment of akusala, sanya is perverted. There is the akusala sanya, the misguided sanya, even at moments of sanya with attachment or sanya with dosa without any wrong view at all. Whenever ignorance arises, the sanya is perverted. It is sanya vipalasa at those moments. And the same with citta
it's because of the root of sanya at that moment that makes it perverted.
Because of the root of the citta that the sanya arises with.
Yeah.
So it is because of the akusala cetasikas that arise with sanya. So the sanya with attachment is different from the sanya with kindness. It has been conditioned by the attachment at that moment and ignorance. So the sanya itself is akusala. It's not like the citta, which is always the leader in experiencing and always pure, but conditioned by the accompanying cetasikas. For the sanya, it depends whether it's kusala, akusala, vipaka, or kiriya. But when it's akusala sanya vipalasa. So even for the anagami who has no more clinging to sense objects, still there is sanya vipalasa when there is the slightest clinging, the slightest ignorance.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any topic or question they'd like to bring up or ask Ajahn or anyone?
I think about akusala. What is akusala? That there are so many degrees. Because for newcomers, they will say, I don't harm anybody now, so there cannot be akusala citta. But in fact, it's good that the Buddha teaches about the different degrees of akusala. Even attachment, just a little, that you like something, just a little, is already akusala. But it's very hard for newcomers to understand this.
And I think there's the common idea, like one of our friends on the list discusses about, well, if I'm not doing any obviously bad behavior, I'm not getting angry with my friends around, or I'm not causing trouble for anyone, then it's good enough. There's no strong akusala, but actually the more and more subtle akusala has to be known, like even now, the clinging, the wrong moments of wrong understanding, the danger in the slightest fault has to be known. There has to be more and more understanding. Otherwise, it can never, ever be eradicated. And we tend to think of situations and occasions, like the friend mentioned the example of someone asking about when having tears at the holy places, was it kusala or akusala? And Ajahn saying, well, can't be known, but the point is it's all gone, it's unimportant, there's no relevance. But what about now? What about the understanding of the clinging now, or the disturbance now? So it has to come back to this moment, not trying to work out the situation that happened 10 years ago or yesterday or even 5 minutes ago, because that's just more thinking about the story of I and this place and this situation.
On the other hand, Nina, John, your mic.
Thanks, Harji. Thank you. On the other hand, Nina, I think some people get a bit too carried away with the development of kusala as the path to being taught by the Buddha, and are too concerned about trying to have kusala rather than akusala, and therefore knowing the distinction between the subtle kusala kusala and subtle akusala. And so the emphasis always has to be on, as we know, on the understanding of whatever is appearing at the present moment. An interesting question came up recently on our discussion list from someone who was wondering about the importance of knowing the difference between kusala and akusala, and how important this is to the development of insight, understanding. And I think, as I understand what we've heard and what we've come to understand, that there can be the development of understanding realities, whatever the ability to distinguish kusala from akusala may be. So obviously, those who have developed samatha to a high degree do understand the distinction between kusala and akusala, but others for whom samatha is not so highly developed will not have that understanding, but that is not a hindrance to the development of the path of understanding the characteristic of what appears at the present moment. That may be counterintuitive, as they say, but that's how I understand it.
Jonathan, if there is, if a person can develop samatha, then they will have less akusala, and all akusala is a hindrance for understanding. So is it not, I dare to say, helpful for understanding, in the sense that it's not akusala, because any akusala prevents or hinders understanding?
Well, only at the moment of its arising, so it doesn't prevent there being awareness and understanding of the akusala the next moment. So if awareness and understanding is developed, then it obviously can be aware of and understand the akusala moments as well as the kusala ones.
Yes, yes.
So there's a tendency to think that the more kusala there is in one's daily life, the better the conditions for developing understanding. But that's not really how it is, because a person can have a very highly developed understanding of the samatha kind, but still have very strong wrong idea of self, or wrong view generally. And so it's important to not to think in terms of more mundane kusala means better conditions for developing understanding.
Alan,
Yes,
and Alan, and just now, I heard that you saying that all akusala hindering the understanding. I think that is not right. I mean, at the moment of akusala arise, yes, wisdom cannot arise. But then not all kind of akusala that would hindrance the right understanding from arising. Right? Yes, like a wrong view, clinging to the idea of the wrong view and all that. That can be the hindrance of panya to arise. But if like it's just us like daily loba, like attachment, like to what you're seeing, taste, flavor, sound, and all that. I don't think that is what's going to hinder in the right understanding from arising.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you're right. Actually, yeah, it's just and there's no choice anyway, because each moment is under conditions. So whether you have attachment or anger, there's no choice in that matter. So yeah. So Harji, then what is the condition for understanding?
Well, you hearing the Dhamma and by condition, right consideration, by anatta, no choice. Yeah,
Yes.
so no, it's not that we can choose or we expected that we listen Dhamma and the Panya will arise. That is wrong. That is against anatta. That's not understanding that Dhamma are just Dhamma.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We hear in the texts the word enlightenment. What does that word refer to exactly? Is it the first noble truth? Because I know that we can read in the suttas, the expression is dustless, stainless vision of truth, that what arises ceases. What does the word enlightenment refer to exactly, or awakening? Awakened to what? The first noble truth, or the four noble truths, or that there is no self? Or what does the word enlightenment refer to?
Briefly, I think, Alan, it refers to the path consciousness. And there are 4 stages of enlightenment. Each of the 4 stages has its own moment of consciousness, Maggajitta, followed by the fruition consciousness, the result, Vipaka, Palajitta. So enlightenment is those 4 path moments. And it means seeing clearly the way things are. But each path level is to a certain degree, of course, until the final arahatship, which is the beginning of cessation of dukkha.
So when we say seeing a reality clearly as it is, so if it's taste, for example, that reality is understood exactly as it is, either as anatta, dukkha, or anicca, one of those. Is that right? So it's the clear understanding of the nature of one reality, or the nimitta of one reality.
It's really when the understanding of a number of different realities reaches sufficient level to eradicate certain kinds of akusala. So for the Sotapanna, for example, which is the first stage of enlightenment, the Sotapanna has developed understanding of a number of realities, not just one, to the point where wrong view, for example, gets totally eradicated, as does doubt and something else.
Stinginess, I think so.
I forget what. And then so on for the other stages of enlightenment.
And
Perhaps
those
John
different
would like to speak to this.
just briefly, I was just going to add there that in those moments that Jonathan referred to, those path moments, there is nibbana as object at that moment, Alan.
But the first moment isn't nibbana. Is it the first path moment is nibbana, or it's a reality? Then it's followed by, I know there are several path moments, or is it just one?
Just usually, well, it depends. But usually Magga moment, there's just one Magga moment, which is your eradication of whatever level of, whether it's Sotapanna or Sakadagami, it depends. But there's only one path moment. Fruition moments, there can be at least two sometimes, but it depends. But my understanding is there can be more than one, but those moments there is nibbana as object. Perhaps Ajahn would like to elaborate on that.
What's the meaning of enlightenment?
I think to understand clearly the way things are, or the way realities are, as just realities. They are not things or people, don't belong to anyone. So, but it would just be, I think at the moment of enlightenment, one reality. I'm assuming that when it's in the text, the sutras as enlightenment, that it's referring to maybe the arising and falling away of one reality. Is that right?
It's not just intellectual understanding of whatever is there now, but it's more than that. That's why there are so many degrees of understanding. Even intellectually, at the beginning, it's not as much as when it's started on and on until it can appear that even right now, there can be moment of understanding what is there in word. For example, citta now in word, the reality which experiences the object in word. There are two kinds of the reality which experiences an object in words. It's not enlightenment yet, right?
Right.
So how come to have such very keen and sharp and clear understanding of what is there now that we are talking about? For example, we talk about akusala, attachment and ignorance. Is it there now? We just talk about ignorance.
Yes.
But when it's there, is it known? Even
no. It's known intellectually, but it's not known at each moment, no.
That's why understanding the different level of intellectual understanding and beginning to directly understanding what is there as it is, as we have learned, is different from moment of enlightenment, because it's just beginning to be aware, to understand the object, which is not clear yet in the beginning, but not forgetful that it's there to be known, because it's there and so very short. When it's not known, it's gone. And even right now, it's there, not known, it's gone. That's why learning to understand the truth of no one, nothing, nothing at all, only reality is conditioned to arise. That's why even this word is not understood clearly at the very beginning. For example, right now, there is seeing. Why not hearing? What conditions such and such different moment? And there is considering about the truth of the seeing, not just understanding that it sees, but the seeing, see? That's why we learn to begin to consider again and again, more and more about the word that we have learned, like a reality which arises and is achieved of experiencing an object. What about now? Where is it? It's not known. It's not attended at all as it's there, because the object appears in the day. No thought about that which experiences at all. and we learn about it. It's a reality which arises and experiences the object. Is that enlightenment? Just knowing about the word, the term, even is there, is not known. So how can it become to be object of enlightenment? Understanding without any word, no doubt about the reality which is there. Right now, there is doubt about citta. It's there. Any moment in life, it sees and it hears. And so all moment in life, it's there. That's why we do not be careless about considering the truth of different levels of understanding before it can lead to enlightenment, the truth of one reality at a time. Otherwise, how can it be enlightened when it's not clearly known, little by little? So now we think about the word citta or vijnana, or seeing now is a reality, no matter we call it what, but it's there, experiences the object which is seen, which now appears, what is seen, but no thought about the reality which experiences it. That's why beginning again, not to forget, to understand the reality which is there from birth, arising and falling away, experiencing different whatever appears in life, that is there to be known. Otherwise, I see, I hear, I think, nothing can eliminate such misunderstanding of that as something from birth on and on until death. That's why just consider it. Who doesn't know that there is a reality which sees or experiencing the visible object right now? But what is it? Because when we think about the moment before seeing, to be truthful, what is there before seeing? There must be a reality. Citta is there, arising and experiencing an object from time to time. But when it's not seeing, before seeing arises, there's no seeing, but there is a reality which experiences an object, which is no attention to it at all, just ignore. But the truth is that in order to understand the reality which is there any moment experiencing an object, that's why when the object is that which is seen, the object which is seen is the object of that which arises and experiences in that particular moment. But before that, it has to arise. It has to experience the object before visible object can appear. So it's a reality which the object does not appear. No sound, no sight, no smell, no taste, no touch, but it's there. So when it's there and no attention to its characteristic, how can it be known as it is the very important, the core of the world or whatever is there in life, from life to life, arising, experiencing, and then far away? Only the object appears as something all the time. But when the object is visual object or sound is not there known, or the object of thought is not there known, it's there. So when it's there, the object of the six doorways does not appear. That is moment when it's there. Anytime, even nothing appear, it's there. It's there. It means that it's there because it has a reason it's there. As that which experiences, but no thought about the reality which arises to experience the object which is unknown. Beginning to understand it, so that when there is visible object appearing, it's that which the object is changed from that which is not known to the moment when it's conditioned to experience visible object, or it's conditioned to experience sound. But before that, it experiences an object, but the object does not appear. So that which is there is the characteristic of that which we use the word chitta or vijnana, because it's there, but the object does not appear. This is the beginning to understand the second level of Patipatti. There must be the 12 rounds of the 4 Arya Satya. The first round, we talk about what is there now, arises and falls away by conditions. They are different by conditions, they're not permanent, but it's not the moment of understanding one characteristic which is different from the other, and that one which has arisen and now appears, disappear instantly. That's why, and how can it be known? That's why study again, consider again about the truth of what we have heard at level of intellect understanding, to know how can it be known. There must be more considering about the truth of what is there, little by little, to have more confidence of that which is now appearing. So now, visible object appears, and the seeing does not appear, because no understanding of the characteristic of our reality, no matter what the object is, it's there, experiencing. So there must be object of the moment of experiencing, even the object does not appear. So when the object does not appear through as to 6 ways, visible object and so on, it's there. Different from moment when one is asleep, fast asleep, it's not there. But when it's not moment of being fast asleep, it's a moment to know when there is no visible object or sound or whatever is there. That's why we learn to understand the process of the experiencing from moment of birth on and on, that it's there all the time, never change. Its characteristic is just, it's conditioned by cetasikas and other paccaya and so on to arise, to experience just one object at a time. And even the object does not appear, it's there. So it's time to understand the reality when the object of experiences does not show. It's not there as visible object or sound or hardness. Is it there?
It must be there.
So it can be known to understand the moment without the appearing of object as shape, as sound or smell or sight. And then doubt is there. Doubt is not that reality which is there, because doubt has its own object appearing as doubt about what?
Is it not easier to understand seeing and hearing because they have an object rather than the experiencing which doesn't have an object? That seems a very subtle and deep level of understanding, whereas seeing sees, and it changes all the time. Suddenly we experience a taste, suddenly we experience sound without expectation. So we can have some understanding that these experiences are beyond control, they are conditioned. But to understand the reality which experiences, which doesn't have an object, or that where the object doesn't appear, that seems a very high level of understanding, more difficult than to understand seeing and hearing. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
There's always an object of experiencing. There cannot be experiencing without an object. Whether it's known or not is another matter, but there cannot be any chitta arising without an object.
Yes, so sorry, the object doesn't appear. So, but it would just seem to be more difficult to understand the reality before seeing as the experience, as opposed to seeing, because seeing is kind of right there in front of us, performing its function, and then suddenly there may be taste or there may be sound. So these experiences are very impactful, if you like, whereas it seems a very subtle reality, the experience before seeing, where the object isn't known. Is that, I don't know, is it more difficult to be aware of that reality rather than
they develop to understand the very subtle reality of that which we used to think seeing.
Yeah, so seeing is subtle.
The hearing, the smelling, there's the moments of experiencing object, but the objects is different by conditions. When what is there impinge on the sense, it conditions such moment to experience it, while before that, no condition to see, no condition to hear, but it's there, experiences an object from birth. That's why we learn to understand different chittas by different conditions about the ways of experiencing what is there in life, only that which is experienced through the 6 ways. But there are more than that, more chitta than that, but they are not known. For example, avachana chitta, no matter panchatavara vachana chitta or whatever, can it be known without any understanding from hearing, considering as the base to develop the understanding of the very subtle truth of what is there now. The more Panya develops, the more it can understand the subtlety of all Dhammas. And that is the only way to let go attachment or desire to experience it in this life or very soon. Impossible. And that is the only way, by understanding the truth. That's so subtle. There's no idea to attain such knowledge in this life or very soon, or in how many lives, depending on understanding at each moment. So this moment is the understanding of what is there, or thinking about it, not understanding each one as it is. That's why the first Vipassana Jnana is the distinction, the understanding, the realization of the distinction between Nama and Rupa. And for example, Chitta is there, appears as the reality which there's nothing appearing, only that which arises and experience the object unknown. When the object is known, it's not the object of understanding Chitta.
Right, yeah.
And this is the second round of the Four Noble Truths. And the realization is the third round. So it's there. We just know that it's there. The reality which experiences the object, but the object appears. As long as the object appears, the characteristic of that which experiences it does not appear. Just appear one at a time. One reality at a time can be the object appearing. But learn to understand it. And so there can be moment of understanding it anytime when it develops. But now Chitta is there, but it's not acquainted at all as it is. But when it's become familiar, little by little, who knows? Only Panya knows the truth, how much understanding of that which is there. To be gradually familiar to that which experiences, not me at all. But it has to be stage by stage. Even right now, we can talk about the truth of it, but as long as it does not appear, not yet the clear distinction between the reality, which has no shape and form, it appears as it is, not sound or smell or sight at all. So there can be the moment of beginning to attain to the reality which experiences sound or sight little by little until it's so used to understand it. And know the moment of understanding it and moment when the other reality is object of understanding. Be truthful to the truth. So now, begin to think about it. The reality which experiences is there. It's not the sound or the smell. When no sound, no smell appears, it's there. Until right understanding open up the reality which is hidden from birth, little by little, until it appears clearly. And that is the moment of no doubt about the distinction between Nama and Rupa. But there's still doubt about the arising and falling away and more until right understanding develop to understand what is there by conditions. No desire to have it arise now or then or of such and such object by conditions. That's right. Is there the reality which experiences the object now?
Yes.
Does it appear?
No.
But it will appear to understanding directly, little by little. Is that moment when the object does not appear?
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, there are moments when the objects.
See, when we begin to think carefully about it, there must be that moment, but no attention to it. That's why it cannot be known, even it's there. But when we talk about it, it conditions the moment of beginning to know that it's there, a reality arising and falling away from moment of birth. Otherwise, it's not life at all. And why it's the chief of experiencing, because no matter what the object is, it's there because that reality experiences it. Otherwise, it cannot be there as the object at all. Getting closer and closer to that reality, which is so close, closer than anything else. Just right now, it's there. And this is the beginning to think about it, to be mindful of the moment when it's there, little by little. Otherwise, it cannot be the beginning of understanding the reality which is the truth of experiencing. And without it, can there be anything appearing?
No. No.
Mm-hmm. That's why we learn about reality one by one, more careful, little by little, and only right understanding of the truth is so subtle can let go the idea wanting to experiencing it. It's just understanding. And when there's no understanding, ignorance and doubt and attachment still there, accumulated to condition what is there from moment to moment in life, all are ignorance. No understanding of the way it is, not permanent. What is there is conditioned, and each one is so subtle. That's why attachment or anger appear, but citta, which experiences the object of anger or attachment, does not appear yet. As long as there's no attention to its characteristic, as without it, nothing can appear. But it does not have any shape or form or any rupa at all. And it's not the intention, and it's not lopa, and it's not dosa. It's just the reality, which is the chief of experiencing the object when the phassa is there, when the object impinges on its base.
The chitta is also called the innermost ayatana, isn't it? The innermost reality. What does that mean?
Because it's there and it does not appear, while the other cetasika, which arises, can be object or appear, like attachment, pleasant feeling, memory, and anything. But that which is the chief of just experiencing the object, manindriya, they are not only manindriya, they are the indriya as well. But that which is citta is manindriya, it is manayatana. All depends on conditions for by what aspect it's called, by ajatana or by dhatu and so on. That's why there are different names for vinyana dhatu. Vinyana dhatu, so citta, vinyana as a chief.
Thank you, Ajahn.
My pleasure. I appreciate your understanding.
Thank you.
It's so very subtle, but it can gradually be realized. It's there now, see? No thought about it. And it can be the beginning of conditions to be mindful of it, little by little. Otherwise, it's just the word study about that meaning of it, but not studying the characteristic of the reality which is there now. From understanding the characteristic, the nature of nama and rupa, roughly, broadly, then it can be moment of understanding one characteristic of one reality at a time. What is nama and what is rupa, how they are different, how different conditions for each reality when it arises. to have more confidence of no one, no self, only different realities, so very subtle, arising and falling away, non-stop by conditions. As long as there are conditions for whatever arises, it has to arise, not at will. And what are there? Not only chitta, are the mental factor or nama as well? Is there different ones arising together to form that function? So we learn to understand just one reality at a time. We talk about Sati. Is it there now? See, not only the word, but to begin to understand different moments by different conditions and understand what is what, as we say, kusala or akusala.
So we can say that to be Buddhist, to be interested in Buddhism is to be interested in the reality which is now appearing. That's what it means to be a Buddhist. It's not the words, but it's the reality. We use the words in order to directly experience what reality is there now.
We use the word Buddhist or Buddha or Buddhism, but what is Buddha? What's the nature of Buddha? Right understanding to the end.
How do you mean to the end? The peak of right understanding?
To the end, it's not just hearing about the truth, right?
Yes, I see. Yeah.
On and on to the enlightenment you were asking earlier, until the full realization of the truths and the eradication of defilements and no more becoming.
Yes, yeah.
So the Buddha is the one enlightened to the truth. And this is when we pay respects to the Buddha, it is to that, to those qualities, the development of understanding of the truth and the sharing of that understanding. And I think that when you were asking about enlightenment earlier, unless there is the development of understanding of realities now, the beginning of understanding of the truth of what life is, it's impossible to have any comprehension of what enlightenment is. So it's the understanding that has to develop on and on until eventually there's the full realization of the truths. Like Ajahn was stressing, there have to be the rounds of pariyatti understanding, pati understanding, and pativeda understanding of the four truths. So it has to begin with the pariyatti understanding, the firm intellectual understanding, conditioning the direct understanding of the truths.
Yes, I think that some people have the idea that enlightenment can just happen without any development of understanding. So it is the peak of that development of understanding intellectually to begin with, and then
the end that Ajahn referred to.
The end, yeah, the end.
Otherwise, people ask about what Nibbana is and what enlightenment is and what it means to realize the truth, but it's meaningless if there's no understanding of realities now, no understanding of moments of seeing and hearing, no one experiencing anything. Otherwise, it's just a story about someone being enlightened, but nothing understood. Just like someone being a Buddhist or a Buddha that lived, it's meaningless if there's no understanding at all.
Yes, yeah. This is just the story.
Another fantasy with lots of Sanya Vipalasa and Chitta Vipalasa clinging to ideas of what it means, but without any understanding at all. So that's why even when we discuss about enlightenment, it has to begin with understanding what appears now. It has to begin with understanding those realities that are experiencing and the understanding of Chitta as the chief in experiencing the innermost reality and those realities that don't experience anything. Otherwise, there's no beginning of developing understanding that can lead to the path.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Even if there, it does not show up. So it is the innermost, because other Cetasika or other reality like Rupa can appear as the object, but it's there, the innermost. Who knows that there must be that reality all the time, from each moment in life, experiencing an object. But the present feeling can be known, sanya be known, attachment, aversion can be known, but the innermost is there. No one thought about it. It's so innermost because it's there now, unknown. If it's not known, can there be letting go, ignorance and attachment, and become enlightened?
No. If it's not known, there's always the idea of I see, I hear, my foot, I all the time.
That's why it has to be Chittanupassana Satipatthana. No matter what is there real, it has to be known in order to let go ignorance and attachment. And attachment covers up the truth, because at the moment when it's there, there cannot be any understanding of the truth of what is there at all. That's the understanding of the second noble truth.
The second noble truth is the understanding that attachment is a condition for the arising and falling away of realities. Is that correct? That
the circle of samsara is there. When it's the object of attachment, what happened? No letting go at all. So as long as it's there, attached to what is there, that cannot be the understanding of the truth of that very moment.
right? And it's the understanding of the truth which stops samsara.
Understanding the truth, the absolute truth, ultimate truth. Actually, what is there now is not there anymore. Never to arise again, never to come back. In samsara, only appears and disappears. The moment
and that understanding is the cause of the stopping of existence of samsara.
For example, right now, there is the understanding that what is there now is not there anymore. In split seconds, can it stop conditions for attachment to arise or not yet?
Not yet, no.
That's why only the intellectual understanding is not enough. And even the second round is not enough. It has to reach the realization of the truth. Clearly, very clear. No doubt about that object, about the way life is. So what's the use of no one there, only different realities conditioned to arise and fall away all the time, non-stop. I read. So the world is empty or sunyata and anatta. Just live with ignorance and attachment on and on, from moment to moment. So the moment of understanding the truth is so very precious because there can be further and higher understanding, little by little, of what is there now as it is. So the moment of enlightenment is not different from now, but now there's no understanding. Ignorance there, attachment is there. But when time comes, what is there now shows up as it is. By conditions, unexpectedly, anatta. And what arises falls away instantly, never to return, anatta. So I keep on. No understanding, just attaching to whatever is there as it is by conditions. That's why all depends on understanding. Without understanding, the object is so pleasant. It's there all the time. But in truth, each moment is not permanent from birth up to death and on next life, as long as there are conditions for whatever arises. It has to arise. Like now, When the right understanding develops, it can be conditioned to have even idea that it's useless to live on and on and on, experiencing and clinging to that which is not there anymore. Just like in a dream, dreaming about that which appears as something, keep on going until one wakes up. It's not as it is, as it appears. Can feeling be someone? It's there by conditions and then gone. Can lopa is there forever? Never. It changes all the time, unknown. Everything is a reality, no self, nothing at all. Each one is different, conditioned to rise and fall away. Is that true? It can be learned, it can be understood. Then there's the words about it from the enlightened one. And chanda is a reality which is interested in the truth, not as before. No understanding of this moment at all. No chanda to understand it. So they are all dhammas that we have learned, but it's there in daily life from moment to moment. Unknown until it's known, clearer and clearer until it's moment of enlightenment, moment of different stages of vipassana jnana.
Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to bring up today? And Maeve, I think at the end of the last session, you brought up a topic about when there's thinking about the idea of someone. Was there anything else you wanted to follow on with or ask Ujjan about? Or did we or was it finished satisfactorily?
Sarah, could you just remind me what I actually can't recall where we left off. Can you remind me?
I'm not quite sure, but I remember it was a topic about the idea of there being someone, and I have an idea that I and maybe one or two people discussed it, but then we finished time, but I'm not sure either.
Not to worry.
We talked about the magician.
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think you said
right.
it tends to imply an idea of self, Maeve.
Yes,
That's right. Yes.
I recall that. Yes.
And we discussed how actually it's referring to how the seeing and what is taken is seen is taken for something like the trick of the magician, the illusion created by the magician, but no suggestion that there is someone seeing or someone experiencing at all.
Yes. Thank you. I do recall that. No, that's fine. There is a question though around, and I think this actually came up for me last week, but I didn't ask about it. And it was Ajahn often speaks about paying attention, and I wondered if it's possible. It would seem to me that it's not possible for us to pay attention, for attention to be paid during sleep. That it's only waking consciousness is a condition for attention to arise. So that's a question actually.
And does this imply a direction, an intention to attend? Do you mean? Or?
No, not necessarily. More just the condition that even though we talk about there is the dream state that we have some sense of being able to distinguish between the dream state and the waking state. However, we often say that even in the waking state, we actually are not. We're not awake in terms of awareness and paying attention. And I think it's around. I suppose what that quality is that facilitates paying attention, the conditions around paying attention. I think that's the question.
And I think it indicates how far away our conventional idea of attention is from the Cetasika, because when we read about Manasikara, it arises with every citta, even in deep sleep. So it's very different from our conventional idea of paying attention, because it arises by its conditions at each moment in life, attending to the object experienced. But I think that when Ajahn is stressing the attention, usually we're referring to the wholesome and unwholesome moments of attention, the yoniso and the ayoniso manasikara. So moments of understanding, there is wise attention to the object at those moments. The manasikara is wholesome, attending to the object of experience and understanding, whereas at moments of ignorance and attachment, like you say, it's like whilst dreaming, there is attending to the object, but it's attending to the object with ignorance and attachment. So it's arising at every moment. No one that can ever attend, no one can do anything to have wholesome attention, but it is that mental factor that can be wise or unwise, or vipaka or kiriya at each moment in life. But there's not much time, so let's
yes,
invite Ajahn to add more to.
That would be good. Thank you, Sarah.
That's why the characteristic of the mental factors are so very subtle. No one can imagine the difference between each one. For example, why seeing arises with 7 Cetasikas only, and what are there which have to arise each moment? That's why we learn to understand the truth of each Cetasika, because even Manasikara has many stages too. It Manasikara, Nibbana, see, with Makkacitta and Paracitta, see. It's there, but it's not right now. Attending to the object, that's all. Ignorance is there, because ignorance does not always arise, as Manasikara has to arise with each moment. is a condition for citta and cetasika to arise together too. That's why we learn to understand one characteristic at different degrees and levels of its characteristic. For example, phassa is not manasikara, different characteristic, different function. It's not citta, it's not manasikara. It arises and performs its function. See, manasikara cannot perform the function of phassa, and phassa cannot perform the function of citta, and so on. Different realities. That's why we learn to understand the very profound meaning of what is there as phassa. I think that there's no doubt about phassa, right? It's not the rupa touches the rupa, but even the rupa impinges on the rupa. Without phassa, the cetasika, which is there, citta cannot arise. That's why citta is conditioned by cetasikas to arise together, because phassa performs its function and citta performs its function. And vedana, feeling, sanya, and so on. That's why there is a reality which mindful, just mindful of that object. Mindful here is not sati, but it just attend to the characteristic of the object. Just attend, and depending on other cetasikas, what are there together, whether it is right understanding or ignorance or attachment. But the function of manasikara is just to attend to the object. See, how can it so important? Without it, citta cannot arise. But the importance of it is as its function, just to attend wisely or unwisely. That's all. It cannot understand. It cannot feel. It cannot remember. Its characteristic is just whatever is there, it attends to that object. So it's a reality. Arises with each moment of citta, performing the function of attending to the object. So citta experiences it clear, very clearly, but no understanding of the truth. Each reality is different, and there are many degrees of each one too. Can phassa perform its function now to nibbana? Impossible. But when panya at that level is there, its function is for citta to arise to experience, perform its function, phassa. So manasikara itself is not right understanding. It's only attend, like attention to that object. That's all. So in a dream, the attention or manasikara, cetasika, attend to the object, no matter what object is. Now it attends to whatever is there appearing as the object.
So, Ajahn, does that mean that there is no difference between sleeping and waking?
Citta arises and performs its function is to experience an object, no matter what and what and what and what. It arises to experience the object. Whether the object is known or unknown, appear or not appear, but whenever it arises, it experiences an object. That's why at moment of birth, if citta is not there, there cannot be any life at all. But when we use the word apatisanti citta, we mean the moment when citta arises by kamma, a kamma, to condition such kind of citta to perform the function of beginning of life, arising, first moment in life. So is there pasha, is there vedana, is there sanya, is there manasikara at moment of birth? They arise with citta altogether according to the condition, what kind of karma condition that citta to arise to perform its function. Patisanti. No choice, depending on the ready karma, only one, ready to be patisanti after death.
They arise with every single citta in life. So Patisandhi is the first citta. So those 7 cetasikas must be arising because with every citta. And actually there are more at that time, but Manasikara and Pasansanya must arise at every moment in life. So attending to the object experience even from the first moment. So very different from the conventional idea of attending. That's why it's good to hear and consider a little more about the details, because the idea of someone attending is so very deeply rooted that unless we begin to consider that there is just one citta after another, accompanied by these different cetasikas like Manasikara, performing their functions by conditions, it's impossible to get rid of that idea of someone seeing, someone hearing, someone being born, someone attending, and so on.
But who knows that it's there? Just to have confidence of the truth. About what is what. So they cannot be taken for something or someone.
And Maeve, I think when there is mulling over what is being said, or one is following what, for example, Ajahn is explaining and trying to make sense of it usually, I think there can be attending of a wholesome kind to the object. And it's not because a conscious effort is being made to do so, but because if there is a conscious effort, it's like to follow what's being said. But that brings about an attending to particular reality that's being discussed. And I think in that sense, what you say is correct, that when we talk about attending to the object, it's something that refers to it might be a weak kind of panya, I don't know, but it's something that it refers to something that happens when in that situation, for example, that I've just mentioned, and couldn't happen when one was asleep, because there wouldn't be the right conditions for that level of wholesomeness, if that's what it is.
And there must be
Perhaps
right attention too. It cannot arise at will, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, wisely or unwisely.
I think, Sarah, just going back to what you said, part of my thinking has been to interpret the pain of attention as being encouraging attention, as being, necessary in order to develop understanding. But I mean, clearly that goes against what we understand about, as you just said, Jonathan, we can't will that, we can't make that happen.
And
so
I would say we can't self-prompt it either.
There is the idea of encouraging it. It is the idea of I doing something behind it. I think it's an important topic. We can continue next week, but I'm just reminding it of a friend who isn't with us anymore, but from his many years of studying the Buddha's teachings, he had this idea of that he had learned in meditation centers of yoniso manasikara, meaning having a good intention before eating a meal or before taking a walk or something, but no understanding of manasikara. So that idea of encouraging it or doing something is all the idea of I again. Perhaps we can, yes, carry on.
Yeah, it's probably a good one to
let's continue next time. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Sawadika, Ajahn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.